Hi, Josie.
Hi, Ray.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank
Well,
you.
welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me here.
Right. So let's start with how long you've worked for the city of Salinas and the different positions you've held in the city.
I've been with the city of Salinas for 28 years.
Wow.
Yes, and I started still in the Public Works Department as an engineering aide, and then as a junior engineer, and now to my current position as an assistant engineer.
Wow, that's great. So you've had a lot of experience with different public improvements through the Public Works Department.
Yes, yes, it's been an exciting career, really. It's never a dull moment, and I've seen a lot of improvements. It's really a pleasure to see a project from its concept to its completed state that the public could enjoy and use, really.
Right. So one of the major activities I know in Public Works is road and street improvements. And we probably were multi-million dollars behind in terms of the demand that was necessary, that's out there for improvements, and very little money except through grants. Now we see a little more light at the end of the tunnel with the regional tax that was presented through the Transportation Agency of Monterey County, TAMC, which we had talked about before on the show, was a 3/8 sales tax. So Salinas receives close to $3 million, I think, annually, or close to that. And so that will produce a lot of funding over the next 30 years. And one of the major projects we had was Boronda Road, which was 2-lane and heavily trafficked, heavily used, and a transportation issue, and waiting for lots of money actually to make the improvements. And along with that, it seems like that's in the north end, covers most of the north end, part of Salinas, and then beyond that, adjacent to it is the future growth area, which is supposed to, at least the two areas, I understand, Central and the West are going to have at least 8,000 residential homes. So that's being worked on in terms of the final environmental impact report and the final specific plan. So my understanding is you've been working heavily, intensely on the Boronda Road improvements.
Yes, for this last year and a half, that was the focus for the Boronda Road widening project to happen. And we hired a consultant to partner us in that aspect, and we have completed the surveying phase of that. Before that, we did the environmental phase, the geotechnical, meaning testing the soil, and with the requirements now of the National Pollutant Elimination Discharge Systems, basically we were testing where the water could best percolate on the grounds, and those are done and completed. We are in the middle of our environmental phase. Along with that, we also have the surveying part where we go out there and take the elevation of the surface of the land to really have a feel of how the surface is shaped, to then convert that into the plans that the contractors could bid on later on. So we are in towards the end of that, and we will go soon into the detailed design where you really have to draw it to the nearest foot or something like that. Yes.
So you're sort of past that first phase, which is what I often refer to as sort of the pre-construction phase, where you're doing a lot of planning, compliance. You mentioned the NPDES permit for stormwater. and water quality. And then you have issues, geotechnical issues. You have, just the soil issues. So there are lots of things that need to be considered even before you start designing.
Yes, a lot.
Yeah. So how long did that take? That
Um,
part, that little pre-construction part.
that's
Years?
years, because there are some changes on the analysis. Plus, also we had the most recent one was what we called intersection control evaluation, or the ICE analysis, because for the general plan identified Boronda Road as a 6-lane facility.
Wow.
With the traditional signalized intersection. And currently we explored the option of roundabouts. So we did the analysis. It's called the ICE analysis, intersection control evaluation analysis, at each intersection whether the roundabout would work instead of a traditional signalized intersection. And from that result that was completed just as of last year, it was concluded that roundabouts could carry through the traffic up to a certain foreseeable future, meaning I think that was 2063 or something like that, 2064.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time. And it would be a 2-lane roundabout with a 4-lane roadway, meaning 2 lanes in each way. And that's the plan that we have taken out to council, and the council approved that concept.
So there's a lot of controversy because the city had completed one roundabout on Skyway
Boulevard,
right.
yeah.
And that seemed to be successful, although there was even some controversy about that. So what were some of the issues that the public, the community brought forward, and in terms of making that a council considering the roundabout versus a traditional signalized intersection? Was it safety? Was it cost? Was it a number of other factors?
It's a combination of factors.
Okay.
Roundabouts are fairly new, and anybody kind of not familiar with that would have a hard time with with the navigation, and there's always that uncertainty and hesitant for a person if it's anything, something new that is not common with the city. And so and the perception also that maybe how could you replace that with the 6-lane and then the 4 lanes. So there's always that. And we did have public outreach meeting. We reached out to our interdepartment at first, and then we talked to our council subcommittee also regarding the roundabout concept versus this traditional signalized intersection. And so the public really just the uncertainty of how will it work, especially with the pedestrians, also with the McKinnon side more specifically, that is near the school. And
Yes.
Yes. So actually, we have studies regarding the roundabouts at close proximity to schools, and it really is better because the kids have a shorter distance to cross. It's 1 lane at a time rather than the entire 6-lane, if you will.
Right.
Right now, the 6-lane that I could think of is Alvin and North Main Street.
Wow. Yeah.
That's what the kids cross by there, and the plan for Boronda Road with a 6-lane configuration is wider than North Main Street. So with the roundabouts, the pedestrians will be crossing just 1 lane at a time. And in addition to that, cars tend to be to slow down as approaching the roundabout intersection.
Right.
And they slow down, and based on the studies, there'll be less impact if there's a collision. It's not like a hard head-on collision like the signalized intersection. Less impact on any collision, and then so the injuries would be minor compared to the traditional one. And that's what the study results stated. And also with these McKinnon site, we are also planning on putting, it's like a pedestrian system, if you will, wherein it's only activated when there's a pedestrian. When you push the button, there's an additional safety of, like, there's a beacon.
Okay.
We don't call it a pedestrian signal light because it acts differently than the pedestrian signal light. It is a beacon in a sense that it is only triggered by a pedestrian, and if there's no pedestrian, so you don't see it.
Right.
And it's configured differently. So we will have, we will also have a lot of public outreach soon after this for a public education component of this, especially with the beacon system that we're talking about, and also how to navigate the roundabouts.
It seems to me that the roundabout accomplishes both the safety and the ability to have the traffic keep moving, because even with 6 lanes, you were going to stop right at a traditional intersection. Then you have to start again for the car. In this case, in my experience with roundabouts, is you keep moving. If there are pedestrians in the right-of-way, you will stop. But often, like you say, it's 1 lane at a time. It's not like you have to stop all the lanes, right? So some cars are still moving, and they'll see the pedestrians. So I think that's probably a good idea, and that's why you can go from maybe 6 lanes to 2 or 4. I mean,
Yes.
because the traffic is moving, and the rate of traffic moving is as good or better than the traditional signalization, which stops the car.
Yes, because even it will continuously move the vehicles,
Right.
the cars, when there's except for there's pedestrian and whatnot. Whereas the traditional signalized, it's stop and go, stop
Right.
and go, and those actually also are the disadvantages of the signalized intersection with regards to the loss of the travel time because of the red lights that you pass through. And yeah, with the roundabouts, you wouldn't have that. And so it's a continuous slow movement of the traffic within the intersection, which is faster in a sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So will all of Boronda be improved, or how much of Boronda will be improved? How many miles or how many intersections are we talking, or roundabouts are we talking about?
So we are talking about McKinnon, El Dorado, Natividad, and Independence.
All right.
And of course, Hemingway, which is not a part of this project, but that would also be a roundabout. So the limits of this widening project is from Dartmouth shortly right after the new development ends, and all the way past the Independence Boronda intersection, and that's where the 4-lane widening would occur.
Okay.
And at Hemingway, there will not be a widening, but just some sort of a control intersection, which we favored, and the developer is also in agreement with us that we all favored the roundabouts rather than a signalized traditional intersection. And so with this improvement, we will also need to widen the bridge. That's kind of it would take longer for all the permitting with the Department of Fish and Game and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So we start the project at the west side, and while we're building, we'll continue on going east from McKinnon to El Dorado Natividad and all the way to its completion.
Wow. So you're almost, you're in the design phase, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when will that be finished?
We are hoping to be complete with the detailed design. We would be hopefully in construction by next year.
Wow. Mid-year? Fall?
Yeah, we are targeting late summer.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Right.
And then we will soon also be going into the detailed design phase, where we will have the documents ready for the contractors to bid on.
Right.
At this time, we're still doing all the preliminary work, if you will.
Which consultants are helping with the design?
We have a team of consultants, and lead by Wallace Group over there at San Luis Obispo. And they are the consultants that we have hired for this, but it's really a team of consultants,
right,
with all the environmental, the other components.
So the design phase and the detailed design are on their way, but and the construction costs is significant. So
Yes.
do you recall sort of what the total project cost might be?
The initial take would probably be over 20 million. That's the initial for its entirety.
Right.
And but that was as of I think a year or two ago, and the asphalt, the construction price index, always on the rise. So it's kind of we have not pinpointed that at this time,
Right.
but yet it's over $20 million project.
Right. So let's say construction late summer begins. When will construction be completed?
Hopefully it will be kind of sequential. We wanted to finish the McKinnon intersection first,
Right.
and then right on, and then start with the other one. I'd say within more than a year. Construction would be more than a year, depending on how do we, accommodate the school, and
Right.
there's got to be an accommodation of the schools when kids are. So there's all that we need to work out all the details.
Right. So generally speaking, what can people expect when that road is under construction and improvements, and those intersections are being changed to roundabouts? So will there be sort of like a detour to other streets or other routes that might make it might mitigate the problems with the construction, because you won't be able to go through Boronda all the time?
Yes, there will be a period of detour, but at first we'd like to keep the traffic on the existing road,
Right.
and then there will be a detour at some point. We always make it bad before we make it better for the
Right,
travelers.
right.
So yes, we will do all those plans, but
Right.
there will be a lot of public outreach also in that regard.
Great. So how would that affect the future growth area? I assume it'll help it in terms of those intersections that have, that will go into that future growth area, those future growth areas. Are there other streets that are going to be improved as well during this major construction and improvement of Boronda? Side streets, connecting streets?
So this road, this project is specific to the Boronda Road. Of course,
Right.
the intersecting roads will be improved to a point where the roundabouts could be accommodated, but we wanted to make most of the improvements on the north side. So basically, we don't touch the south side, which is the developed area, the current existing developed area. And so we will touch all the north area as much as we could, and some modifications, of course, on the intersection to accommodate this roundabout. And we've already also have a meeting with the developers, and they are on board with the roundabout idea also.
Oh, great. Will they be helping fund some of the roadway improvements?
That is
It's still under discussion.
Yeah, still under discussion, and we would, there's, of course, we have the traffic impact fees, development impact fees that they usually contribute to any projects, and those are used on projects that are impacted by the developments. And certainly, the East Boronda Road widening is one of these roads that are impacted by the future growth. So yes.
So all the people that have been complaining about this road and the traffic and the congestion and the waiting and the extra time it takes to get from one part of the city to another part will be hopefully alleviated in many ways, mitigated by the end of 2019. If your timetable's correct and you don't run into any major issues.
Yeah, that's only like the McKinnon, and then we move it all the way through, and that would take more than the 2019 time frame.
Yeah.
All the way to the bridge, the widening of the bridge.
So that may take another 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, that would take more years.
Right. But I think people are probably willing to accept that if they see some progress.
Yes. That is, when it's all completed, it would be better, much better than what it is now.
Right.
Because I've used that road also often.
Yeah. So most of the funding will come from the regional tax, some maybe from the state, SB1.
And some from the traffic impact fees.
Okay.
So those combination of funds, we would be able to fund this project.
But as far as I know, there are no other general fund or other types of funds like Measure G or Measure E. I don't believe any of those funds are in that project.
Not that I know of.
Right.
As far as I know at this point, it will just be the traffic impact fees and Measure X.
When's the next big public meeting on the design?
We will, for the public outreach meeting, that would be earlier this year, right around probably March, February, March. We will have that public outreach component on how to use the roundabouts. And then again, we would probably have several of those. The public meeting that we have was at McKinnon, and then we will have it some other locations. And we will also be putting it up on our website and all the other medias for people to kind of just the informational component of it about roundabouts and how to properly navigate it.
So if people have questions about what the status of the project is or how to use a roundabout, they can go to the city's website, right?
Yes.
And that's all updated as necessary in terms of when the public meetings might be scheduled, what improvements the city residents can expect, when construction might start, etc. That's going to be all available to people, right?
Yes, we will publish it on our website.
So the actual project is really centered around auto use and helps safety with pedestrians. Is there some conscious decisions made about walking and biking the compatibility with the 4-lane improvements and the roundabout? Are there provisions being designed so that people can walk along the 4 lanes? Can they ride their bike along the 4 lanes? Are those provisions
Yes,
in the design?
we definitely have bike lanes in there, built
Great.
in, both ways. And there's a sidewalk on the south side, and the plan is that when the future growth area would develop north of that project, then there will be also the sidewalk and landscape area that would be built, and then we will have both the sidewalk facilities, and we also have, of course, the transit pullouts. The bus pullouts are also considered with this project, and we will have all this multi-use roadway.
Well, that'll be great because it helps connect. A lot of people do want to walk or run, and a new roadway would be a perfect place if it's provided there's wide enough pedestrian access and improvement, a major sidewalk. And then will the bikes also use the same facilities, or will that be a separate lane, or be part of the 4 lanes, or is there a protected bike path?
At this time, it is part of the 4 lane.
Okay.
The separation is the sidewalk, wherein there's the landscape area between the edge of pavement, if you will, and the sidewalk. But the bikes are part of the roadway, without the protected lane.
Right. So we think it will be designed safe enough so that cyclists and other people using different kinds of bikes could safely use, in that right away.
Yes, yes. So there's the width the width of the bike lane is considered when they are traveling with the cars and vehicles also. So
that'll be an improvement for the bikes.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. It looks like we're in very good hands. You're working on the project. You're very knowledgeable about it, and you got a little more work to do. Hopefully you'll be there at the very end. Like you said, the success will be determined when that ribbon is cut.
Yes. And that's what we all look forward to.
Great. Is there anything else the public should know about the project, Josie?
That's it.
Okay.
That I can think of.
Great. Well, it's been great having you on the show, and thank you. We'll probably have you back as we get to that final approval of the design.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ray.